Hi, and welcome to Eating Plebian once again. Today we are going to be talking about these guys, knives. Something near and dear to my heart, especially if you roll a natural 20 and I fail initiative. But anyways, one of the things that eventually you will find is that these things do get duller and duller. And we have to take care of our knives. And, it really actually, I've found out over the years that it doesn't matter how much money you spend on your knives. If you want to get something at IKEA, I've got a couple of IKEA knives here. They are perfectly useful. The metallurgy is not the same as, if you got yourself, something from a fine dining store or whatever. But that just means that you're going to have to sharpen them or hone them a little more often. But taking care of your knives does not need to be, well, it's dull, I've got to throw it away, that's it. So yeah, you can, just even a decent quality knife. These things can last you an absolute lifetime if you take care of it. This one's kind of a mid-level. I mean, it's just like a KitchenAid, something or whatever. But this Santoku knife is the one that I, for whatever reason, just end up using uh, more than any other knife that I have. It's not quite as large as a chef's knife, so it's a little more nimble when I want to get into places. At the same time, it's large enough to chop most vegetables. It's one of the things that I tend to tell people is to get either a small chef's knife if you're only going to have one knife, or one of these, just the general Santoku. It's a very good knife, and one that will get you through a variety of scenarios with whatever it is on your chopping board. So let's get rolling with a couple of items. One of the first things I want to show you, I'm going to lean down here just a little bit, is that in between sharpenings, you can actually bring an edge back to life fairly easily. And that is by using something that's called a steel. There's a couple of different methods for using them. And I've been using a steel for many years now. And it's just something that I got into a habit of, every day when I pick up a knife, I just run it across the steel a little bit, and it brings the edge back to where it's true. Now, mind you, what a steel does not do is it does not resharpen a blade. A steel, what it does is that if you were to look down microscopically down just the edge of the blade, you would see that after using the thing for a little while, the very edge of the blade is going to be waving in and around like this, just from touching little hard parts and pieces and everything else, in the food, dropping it down a little too hard on your cutting board, that sort of thing. What a steel does is when you roll it down, it actually just reshapes that edge very carefully, and it pushes everything true and actually just brings a bit of bite back to that thing. So one of the things that you need to know is what the angle it is that you have to use both on the steel and also on a whetstone. And we'll be going through the whetstones in just a minute. Now, most American kitchen knives and a lot of utility knives average between 17 and 21 degrees, depending on who you ask. And that is the angle that you want to shoot for. I've kind of included just a picture of a compass inside the blog post here on Eating Plebian, give you an idea as to what that is. And it takes practice. There's no uncertainty about this. What it is that you're going to have to try to figure out exactly what is 20 degrees, which is just about there on this steel. And also, this is what you'll be reproducing on a whetstone later on. And keeping it at that angle as you draw it down will bring that edge back up. You also, I'm going to stand up so you can see this, have to use just a little bit of force. Now, first thing is, let's not chop your hand apart. You'll note that I'm not holding over like this. I'm keeping it behind the guard a little bit. And so long as you're not getting stupid with it, you're not going to come down here and hit your hand. But I'm putting about 2 to 3 pounds of force on here. And the other thing that I want you to notice is that my hand isn't moving this way toward your hand. What I'm doing is I'm rotating it, but I'm not moving it forward. Let the rotation of your wrist do the job for running the full length of the blade at 20 degrees down the length of your steel. I'm going to do this about 15 times. And I do it from one side then the other. So you're not pushing it all one way and then trying to push it the other direction by going on one side and then going on the other. It kind of defeats the purpose. So alternate sides. Make sure to run the full length of the blade down and on the other side to the tip at that 20-degree angle. All right, let's take a look at whetstones. Here I have 2 whetstones. They are multi-compound, meaning that one side is one grit and another side is another. And so I've got 400, 1,000, 3,000, and 8,000. I'm not going to be using the 8,000 that much. Once you get above 3,000 for a general kitchen knife or general utility, you're pretty much good. If you really want to, get the thing as absolutely burr-free as possible, sure, go ahead and use the 8,000. And then after that, get yourself a leather strop. But anyways, remember the 20 degrees that I'm aiming for my knife. I had these things soaking in water now for about a half an hour. Okay, so now that I got that shot set up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using the base that came supplied with these stones, and I'm going to start running a couple of passes over top with the roughest stone, which is, in this case, a 400 stone. On the one side, 400. I'm going to place it in. I've also got a piece of paper towel underneath. It's going to make a little bit of mess. There's nothing we can do about that other than just clean it up. But I've got a couple of paper towels handy nearby. And also the water that's already in that thing I'm going to use to occasionally clean off the knife as grit builds up. But I'm going to go for that 20 degrees. And I tell you that this is, again, something that's just going to take practice. Now, there's a couple of different ways I've seen people do it. I've seen the Japanese blade masters will focus just on a particular area and go over it for a period of time and then flip over and do the same thing. Now, in my personal experience, I'm sure that what they're doing is absolutely correct. But at least in my attempts to do so, I will get ridges at the points that it's not quite sharpened or it's not sharpened to the same as the rest of the areas of the knife. So what I like to do is the same thing that I was doing with the steel. I am going to be making sure that I hit the full length of the edge from tip to back and making sure that it's all one particular movement. And so it all stays the same. I'm going to do several strokes on one side, then several strokes in the other. And then, as is my personal habit, I flip over, do the same number. I flip over, and then I do a few less and a few less and a few less. So I should be able to get right to where I want it to progress onto the next stone. You'll note that I'm not using a tremendous amount of force here. I've also got my finger on the blade to provide downward force, but I'm not trying to grind the stone off. And there's also a little bit of rotation going on just to make sure that I don't run out of stone by the time that I get to the end here. So I'm going to stick to that 20 degrees. I'm going to do about 8 passes. I actually lost count. Now I'm going to come back. I'm going to reverse my grip. I've got my thumb on it now. Same angle, starting off with the back side of the blade. Then I'm going to draw 2. Make sure you keep your hand down so you're not. All right, so I've done 8 passes with that. Now, this is not a very badly out of sharp knife, so I don't need to grind it down to the root and completely restart over. Now I'm going to do 6 passes. 6 on the other side after the flip. Keeping that 20. Excuse me. 4. 4 again on the backside. 2. 2. And 1. And maybe one more for luck. All right. If you look up close, you can see here that I am wearing the stone down. Heck of a day for me to catch a bit of an allergy cold going on, but whatever. Hope you'll grant me forgiveness for that. Now I'm going to turn it over. Use the 1,000 side, and we're going to go through the exact same process. And we are going to continue to go through the remaining stone using the 3,000 and a couple of swipes off the 8. I'll show you how it works in a few. All right, so I've passed my knife over all those sides for those 2 stones. I've given it a quick rinse off to get all the grit off. And I've got one of the most notorious things to try to cut with a dull knife, a tomato. Completely no effort whatsoever. It just goes right through. Not a problem. So there we are. That's how we sharpen a knife here. And I hope this helps with trying to keep your kitchen gear in proper fettle. And thank you for watching me here today again. And thanks for visiting Eating Plebian. I've got a cat that's screwing up everything. Bugger off! Don't care. Go. You can get in there. Go. Anyway.